welcome to Tech Ascent, the podcast where we dive into the trends, strategies, and success stories that are reshaping the tech landscape as we know it today. I'm your host, Oliver Clingain. I'm also the founder of Ascenxion, the premier business development partner within tech. Today, we're joined by Phil Portman, the founder and CEO of Textdrip. Phil, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Oliver.
It's a pleasure to have you on. Would you mind telling the audience a little bit about what you do and what your background is?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am the founder and CEO of Textdrip. We started that company in August of 2020. So right around COVID, actually. Prior to that, I had owned a food delivery company. I franchised it. We operated across 6 states. I ended up selling that to delivery.com, sold the office, everything with it, and decided that I wanted to get into tech, and it coincided with the lockdown, so that's what started the company. We've since expanded exponentially. We have over 70 employees working for the company. We're across 3 continents and been growing pretty rapidly. So it's been quite a journey.
Awesome. No, it is super interesting journey. Starting a company selling off and then kind of switching lanes to tech. With TechStrip, what gap did you see that made you want to start like an SMS marketing software?
Yeah, great question. So initially I had another company called Argos Automation, and we were automating like CRM functionality and things like that in collaboration with other communication platforms. We found that most communication platforms were email centric, and the ones that had texting was kind of thrown on as this afterthought. Like, yeah, there's a text messaging app inside there, but our main functionality is email. And email has great purpose, but texting has instant response, right? 90 seconds response compared to 90 minutes on average, for email. Significantly higher response rate versus, when you compare it to email, it's like 45% response rate on SMS versus like 6% on email. So when you're working on a sales or communication strategy, why wouldn't you make the best form of communication and the most preferred form of communication the centerpiece for what you do? And that's ultimately what we did with TextDrip. We said, hey, let's make the texting the focal point of it. Let's be the absolute best in the industry in deliverability. Let's make a mobile app that works the way that a texting mobile app should. And let's make our entire platform intuitive, easy to use, and effective. And the results have been staggering. 5-star reviews all across the board, a lot of word of mouth advertising and growth. And that's kind of led us to where we are today.
Awesome journey. And it sounds like you said, you guys have grown really well, over 70 employees across 3 continents. It's a big stride in just over, is it 5 years now since starting August 2020?
That's right. Yeah, yeah. It's an
Big jump.
exponential growth.
Big jump. And getting the company off the ground as the founder, obviously starting it in pretty much the peak of the pandemic, just as it was taking off. What challenges did you face kind of in those early days of getting things figured out?
Scaling, good Lord. So early on, scaling was probably our biggest deal. Um, we were dealing with customers that weren't sending hundreds of messages a month. They were, agencies sending hundreds of thousands of messages in a month, right? And so when you go from zero to millions of messages in a month that quickly, you have to rethink everything that you built around the process from start to finish. The way we were delivering messages, the way we were reporting, the way we were showing things, our pagination strategies, right? Our auto scaling, all of that became incredibly important for everything from the programming side to the DevOps side. And so they were good problems to have. And I think having a positive mindset around like, this is an adventure, this is exciting, we're going to solve around it, helped us keep the right headspace around it. And fortunately, we had some customers that were excited about what we were building, especially early on, and they were okay with dealing with some of the little hiccups that we had along the way. But if you look at a lot of the entrepreneurs that have done amazing things, like for instance, Mark Zuckerberg talks about breaking things and how oftentimes you're developing products that are only 80 to 90% complete, and that's okay because it means that you're innovating quickly and quicker than your competitors often. And that's kind of the strategy that we took when we were building TechStrip, was that it's okay if things are not 100% baked out, as long as we're solving these real world problems and doing it faster than everyone else around us. It was kind of the mantra that we took, and it worked. We had a few of those nights where it was like, oh my God, pull out the hair, stressed out. But the excitement of what we were building kind of led along the journey and helped us build the platform that we have today.
And it sounds like you guys are in true stride. And I think the biggest thing there that you said is you have to solve real world problems when starting a tech company, especially if you want it to take off the way TechStrip has.
Yeah,
And
and it's interesting that a lot of companies look at things the opposite way, especially in the tech world. They're like, hey, we have this brand new thing, be it blockchain or AI. How do we make money off of it?
hmm,
And I think that's a terrible way to look at business. It's terrible. It needs to be from the strategy of, hey, we've got this problem and nobody else is solving it right. We think that blockchain or AI or one of these solutions will solve this problem. Let's start working from that side out. And over the last few years, it seemed like everyone saw this shiny new toy of blockchain or AI and said, "All right, let's repackage this thing and figure out a way to make money." And I just don't think that's sustainable. And the results have been that a lot of those companies fell to the wayside because they they didn't solve the real world problem. It was cool for them, but it really didn't result in a product that customers were interested in.
and that's something we've heard from other founders in the space that are in the AI space specifically. The reason their companies are successful is because they identified a problem, reverse engineered the process of how to get there, and AI just happened to be that solution. It wasn't they chose AI as the mechanism to get there and then found the problem later down the line. They identified that problem, reverse engineered it. So 100%.
Absolutely. I'm using plenty of products now that have AI behind it, powering it.
Hmm.
But I'm using them because they're solving a problem for me that I was looking for, and said, "Oh, there it is right there," and it fixed it.
Mm-hmm.
That's I think there's some AI companies out there that are some of the fastest growing companies ever. Um, and the reason why they are is because not because AI is fancy, but because they're solving a problem that existed, be it in coding or customer service and note taking, whatever that thing is. So start with the problem first and then build the solution around it. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And Phil, as the founder and CEO of TechStrip, do you feel that being in the tech space, do you feel you lean more towards the technical side of the business, that development side, or do you feel you're kind of on that visionary strategy side of the business? Or are you a jack of all trades?
A little of both. It's I would find it very difficult to be the CEO, founder CEO of a tech company and not be a bit of a nerd. Not be someone who dabbles with coding a little bit on their own. So yes, it's important to understand the how to steer the ship, the overall direction of the company as the founder, the vision of the company, and I can't get lost in the details of it, get lost in the weeds of the technical aspect of the business. But at the same point in time, when I had started the food delivery company, I didn't have the tech background that I do today. I didn't have the coding experience. And I understood that I missed out on a lot. I spent a lot more money on things and I didn't understand what my developers were building. I then went back and spent time learning to code myself. Not so much because I was going to be developing the products, but because I wanted to be able to communicate with my developers around the things that they were building. And that for me was one of the most important things I could have done as a tech CEO is to learn how to code myself because I'm speaking the same language as my developers, and it's helped my growth exponentially. And and to be honest, as crazy as this sounds, I'm not nearly the coder that my software engineers are, but when they get stuck in a problem, there's been times where I've helped them get out of that just because I'm this outside perspective along with having the understanding of what they're going through. So I think a little bit of both. Not getting caught in the weeds, understanding the overall picture, but you still need to be able to speak the language that your developers are speaking.
And I think that's a super important skill to have, and it's something we've kind of identified across the space is people do tend to get lost in the weeds. So it's good you've got that balance as well.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely, and I've been guilty of it myself in the past, getting caught in the weeds, and um, especially when you're early on in founding, you want to do a lot of the things yourself. You want to be really hands on with it, but you have to recognize as your business scales, as you hire people, your responsibility and the things that you do on a daily basis have to change, and they have to change quickly. You can't be the one that's doing the coding. You can't be the one that's communicating with all of your customers. You can't do those things because you're going to miss the overall picture. So very quickly, as you scale, as you hire sales, as you hire customer service, as you hire developers, you need to be able to release some of those things to them and change the responsibilities that you have. Otherwise, you're going to end up missing parts of your business as the leader or as the manager of that organization.
For sure. And as you've added up to over 70 employees over the last 5 years, you've obviously scaled very quickly. What does the makeup of your team look like? Is it mostly engineers? Is it sales, customer success people? What does your team look like?
Yeah, so a lot of software engineers. We still have quite a few software engineers, and I would say between that and customer service, that makes up the bulk of our organization. I'm a believer in if you're creating a business, a service business, which a SaaS business is, right? It's actually got service in there that you should deliver on that service. So part of the reason why we have the 5-star reviews that we have all over the place are because any one of our customers can contact a customer service person, a live person, in under 20 seconds. You can do it through the chat, through text, you can give us a phone call, whatever method you want. We have dedicated customer service around for you in less than 20 seconds. And that's because we're primarily dealing with business customers. And so if there's something that they're not understanding or some problem they're having, if we don't solve that quickly for that business customer, that could be a loss in sales for them, right? So the tech side of it, the developer side of it is so that we can continue to grow our platform at an exponential rate. So we're investing heavily in development, but we're also investing heavily in customer service because we want to stick to that 20 seconds that our customers have come to experience from us. So yes, we still have the sales, we still have the marketing, but those are definitely the two biggest areas that we invest in. And my strategy around hiring is I'm looking for individuals that can grow in the company. One of the questions that we always ask in our interviews is, what's the last book you read? That's something I ask people because on my podcast, on my Successes podcast, an interesting common denominator between people achieving their level of success in life are some common habits that they have. And one habit that most successful people, every one of them that's been on my podcast has, is they're all readers. I could ask them right then and there on the podcast, say, "Hey, what book are you reading right now?" And they'll typically pull it out and go, "Oh, I'm reading this book right here on it." It's not just I read articles or I watch videos. No, they're actually reading books. So something we started incorporating inside of our interview process is, what's the last book you've read? I want to know that the people that I'm hiring are continuously working on their own development. So that way, if I have to promote them into a role that maybe they don't have all of the knowledge around, but they can quickly learn and research and gain the information around it to become an expert in that role. And that's ultimately what one of the attributes that I'm looking for when I'm hiring somebody in my company.
I might have to steal that one for our hiring process. And to go with the flow of it, the most recent book I read, it's actually Your Next Five Moves by Patrick Bet-David. And one of the concepts in that book was entrepreneurs. So as a founder CEO of whether you want to be an entrepreneur yourself or if you're the founder CEO of how to find entrepreneurs. So people that do want to grow within the company that maybe don't want that responsibility of starting their own business, taking that stuff on. So I do think it's a super interesting concept, and it obviously closely aligns with what you're speaking of now.
You're absolutely right. And funny you said that. Both my CFO and my COO have both owned businesses previously. And they both said, I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to own my own business anymore. I've done it before. I don't want to do it anymore. So this is the perfect company for that because they have the mindset that extends beyond their individual discipline. The CFO could get on there and talk to marketing. She could get involved with HR. She can even get involved with the operations because she's had her own business. The COO, up until me hiring him, had only ever owned his own companies until I hired him. So he can go into literally any role and put on that hat because he's done that in his previous lifetime. And I think that's incredibly important to have that versatile experience. One of the things I look for as well with hiring somebody is when we're talking about exploring strategies or problem solving specifically. A lot of times when you're talking to somebody, they'll give you a choice. The choice is A or B. What I'm looking for in that interview is somebody who's giving me the C option, the one that's not really apparent. So it's like, hey, these are your two options. Which way you're going? I want the person that's saying, those are great and all, but what about this one that nobody's really looking at? That's the type of person that I want in my organization.
I like that. And it sounds like you've got the mantra of hire good people and get out the way, essentially, with your COO, your CFO. How do you go about kind of balancing that and allowing them to live up to their full potential, so to say, within your business?
Oh man, getting out of the way is definitely an important part of that. So, like you said, it starts with hiring the right people. That you can't spend enough time. You got to be slow to hire, quick to fire. I know it sounds bad, and a lot of people don't want to talk about it, but getting somebody that is not a good fit for the organization off as fast as possible is incredibly important. We do it within the first 90 days. We'll hire somebody if they're not a good fit culture-wise, work ethic, or we don't think they have the headspace to grow within that. They're gone within 90 days. And I think that's incredibly important. And I've had countless examples where somebody was not a good fit for us. They moved on and they found the perfect career for them. They excelled at it. And I'm incredibly happy for them. Had I kept them in that position for my company, they never would have found the success that they did afterwards. So there's nothing wrong with being quick to hire and quick to fire. But on your point about getting out of the way for people, part of what made me successful in life was my work ethic. I was raised with a really strong work ethic. I was one of seven, real poor family. So I was overnight, we were delivering newspapers with my mom, cleaning houses, whatever it took to get by back then, right? So that extended into my adult life. And as my business grew, I found that my work ethic was actually a problem. The problem was I was getting in the way of my employees doing their job. I wanted to work 80 hours a week, right? I wanted to work 7 days a week. Not only was I getting in the way of them doing their job, I was setting a very bad example on work-life balance and this whole burnout mentality. So I had to take a look in the mirror and say, am I doing this thing because it's what needs to get done, or am I doing this for another reason? And it was the opposite. It was the other reason. It was I had this anxiety within me that came from me growing up as a poor kid that said, work, 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 work. And I had to deal with that anxiety first to be able to release some of that responsibility and say, okay, I'm going to trust my employees, and it's okay to do nothing on the weekends, right? It's okay to have time off and to relax. But until I dealt with that anxiety and that inability to relax myself, I could never let go of the job responsibilities to the individuals that were managing it. And the results have been that I've had time to reflect on my business, time to brainstorm, time to use my creative energy to direct the company, time to examine what my employees are working on and steer the ship rather than getting caught in the weeds.
Oh, that's a fantastic transformation, Phil. And it's one of my favorite questions to ask multi-time founders is if you could rewind the clock a little bit, tell Phil Portman on day one of starting your first company, give them one piece of advice, what do you think you would tell your old self?
Nobody has it figured out. That's probably what I would tell my previous self. I made a lot of mistakes early on thinking that there was the right way to do things. And I wasted a lot of time, money, and I would even say I had a lot of self-doubt as a result of that idea that I wasn't educated enough to do this, that I didn't that I should hire a professional, that I should have a business partner, that I couldn't rely on myself. And what I came to find out was over the years was even the biggest companies are still trying to figure it out and are still reinventing themselves on a regular basis if they're going to stay relevant. Now, don't get me wrong, there's plenty of companies that say, hey, we've been doing this last 30 years, we're going to stick with it. Oftentimes, they're not around in 5 or 10 years. The ones that are successful or are going to continue being successful in the future are the ones that are continuously reinventing themselves. So, what I mean by that in a real world example was I would start a business like the food delivery company and I would start marketing a certain way. And nowadays you would call it like a grassroots effort. And it was really successful at the time. But then I would get big enough where I'd say, okay, now I'm going to start doing things the right way. I'm going to hire a marketing company to run my marketing. What do you think the results of that were?
Not great.
Terrible. They didn't understand my brand. They didn't understand my marketing strategy. The companies that I hired out here in Michigan primarily dealt with the big three, the automotive industry. And so they had a way of doing it that was old school. They weren't caught up to the way that I was doing things. So I had these hacks, these marketing hacks, these way of doing things that launched my business. And what I came to find out was that a lot of marketing companies ended up adopting the things that I was doing afterwards because of the effectiveness. But I was quick to move on them because I didn't follow any processes or procedures or things like that. So I wish I would have known that early on because I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years on things like hiring a marketing company or picking up a partner and then later having to buy them out of the company because I didn't think that the way I was doing it was the right way. The fact is, in entrepreneurship, there is no right way. What works, works. Don't be afraid to do things different because the chances are your different way of doing things are the leverage that's going to accelerate your business faster than anybody else.
Trust your gut at all
Trust
times.
your gut. Absolutely. Yep. And
Phil,
believe in
we've talked.
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, trust your gut, trust yourself, 100%, 100%. And Phil, we've talked a lot about the lessons you've learned over your experiences founding the company, building TechStrip up. Let's look forward now. What's the goals? What's the vision? What's on the horizon for TechStrip?
Absolutely. So TechStrip is primarily a communication platform. And we talked early on about AI and some of the advances coming out with that. we're really excited with some of the cool stuff that we have in the pipeline around AI specifically. Um, so our goal is to increase the productivity of our agents and closing more sales. AI is allowing us to understand when the best time to contact a customer is, what the best communication strategy is, what communication strategy should you stay away from. We're getting a lot of real-time information from our customers that we're able to provide them, and it is making the current tools that we have seem outdated at an exponential rate. So over the next 6 months, our customers, our own Textdrip customers, are going to see a whole slew of tools that will help increase their close rate substantially. And that's what I'm really excited about. I've been playing around with some of the demos, some of the early products, and I got to tell you, it's really cool, and I'm pretty excited about it. The other side, the development side too, the tools out there that the developers are using to help them code, to help them troubleshoot bugs. My CTO, or I'm sorry, my COO is developing like products overnight. It's crazy to see, and he's just doing it with AI. He's just kind of tinkering around on the side, and he's like, "Hey, look at this new employee portal I built," and he's got this whole function thing out. He built my CFO a financial auditing tool in like a week. And she's like, "This is the coolest thing I've ever seen." So for a tech nerd like me, to see like that level of advancement, it's like magic. It's so cool to be able to take an idea and see it implemented, not in months, not in years, but in like sometimes hours or days. To see that created is just so cool right now. So I'm really geeked about the advancements that we're making with AI right now.
Oh, it sounds like you guys are building something great. You guys have laid a strong foundation over the last 5 years, and I think the future only has more in store for you.
Yeah, I agree. I'm really excited about it.
Awesome, Phil. Well, I truly appreciate you coming on, dropping some gems about your entrepreneurial journey, tips about scaling, what you guys are doing with TechStrip. It's been a fantastic conversation.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Oliver. And any of your audience members, if they mention this podcast and they go to techstrip.com and they want to try us out, they will get 3,000 free credits just for mentioning this episode. So if you guys want to go out and try out TechStrip, 14-day free trial to try it out, see if it works, no contracts, and get on with a live demo. I'd highly recommend getting on with a live demo because they're going to help you create a campaign specific to you. And it's completely free. You're going to spend an hour with one of our people that are going to help you get your TechStrip campaign set up.
Awesome, awesome. And for anybody listening that does want to check out Phil or TechStrip, I'll put all the links down in the description below. And Phil, once again, thank you for coming on.
Thanks so much, Oliver.